Remember my dog Bob?
Yes.
Yes.
Probably he did.
Yes, the ADA,
He had some,
not so bad.
Of course, you always want to think of these people as being much younger, but yeah.
board term structure. Directors. This. It's putting things away. I happen to, I have a pointer, or a retractable pointer.
Yes,
That looks like a pen. Then you pull that, then you can,
I want that.
I'm gonna bring it for the next meeting, because I think the next time you get up and.
I'd like to get up and point.
Yeah.
Got it. I appreciate expound.
What is it?
Carol Osterink always writes me up.
You got it,
She
we'll got it.
ever writes me up as opining, which I find
Yes.
a little
Opining, I
off-putting.
would be too, yes. I don't think it's completely fair. Because opining doesn't always
It's so,
smack of, what do I say? Opinions
it's a little too egalitarian for me.
doesn't,
Totally capture my awesome.
that's for your
Positions.
awesome,
My awesomeness.
awesomeness.
Yeah.
Now,
Phil Foreman opined. No, I didn't opine. I'm telling you what it
it
is.
is, exactly. Did you, then what do we call what she does?
Blog,
Which is
scold.
scold, well, I wish she were more of a scold as opposed to a finger wagger.
She's a wagger scolder.
Who's a
Jan,
finger
Jan Egan taught me the word scold.
Who's a finger wagger?
Somebody,
Not me.
you have no finger wagger.
I think I used the word opined several times in my HPC meeting.
Really?
Okay.
Because there was a lot of opining going on.
I didn't
Thank
opine.
you.
Is the meeting I wasn't at, right?
Yeah,
So you,
Well, no,
you didn't
they
capture
showed
me as
up and-
opining.
and
Well-
Henry, although I didn't use it for you.
I-
Someone, Hudson citizen Ronald Kopnicki.
Oh, Kopnicki, yes,
Oh,
yes.
well, he's his own category.
Totally. Especially when he's pulling that radio flyer wagon.
Who's this?
All the best.
Ronald
Ronald.
I like him.
and his co-conspirator, he's eminently likable, but he does a lot of wagging.
Oh, yeah. I thought it was well covered, that meeting in Carroll. I thought that was a good,
You mean the HPC?
yeah, I thought that was good reporting.
Well,
I wasn't there, but.
Well, we sent her everything.
you
we
sent her
could.
everything, exactly.
Oh, that's the key.
There was nobody complaining in the audience with the exception of Henry and me.
No, there was
Complaining?
Ronald and Matt McGee and
Oh, no, I'm
Carol.
saying that was
Oh,
actually
no,
physically there.
in person, no.
I mean, the commenters weren't there.
But that's,
Oh, I
I mean,
suppose they like those broken alleys with the dead doors and
It was
This
sort of
was- but it
reporting, we
was- it
sent her all the
was-
notes
they were
and the
there for
audio
another
track.
property. Well, I don't know,
She had-
did you show up for the public hearing or for your son's property?
he showed up for everything. He always shows up for everything.
Me?
Yeah,
No.
No, I
it
didn't.
was a public hearing and we
Regarding
always-
Henry's property?
No, it was for
Oh,
123.
123, yeah, I did not show up for that.
I didn't think so.
But you were there.
I only became aware of it when I saw the drawing. And then everybody, well, not everybody in the neighborhood, but you know,
But that's what,
Jeremiah and I.
so there was a flurry of back and forth because she is, with all due respect, she is a scold.
Oh, very
And-
much so.
And so she was like, I wasn't in the meeting, blah, 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 and I need the recording. And I said, and the presentation, and I said, well, if you just go on the website. It's all there, it's all posted well in advance. So Ronald, I had to handhold them a year ago to say, all you have to do is go on the website and look at the agenda and it's all there. Because we were talking about this, I was talking with Jess about this. The appearance of non-transparency
Yeah,
is not a good thing. And it's pretty rife with most of the boards and committees in this town.
that could
You know,
easily be,
well, the people, they'd rather complain and just say, everything is done under the table, blah, blah, blah. And so, as Jess knows, Hugh and I went to the planning board meeting
yeah.
2 Wednesdays ago,
Had to be.
or last Wednesday.
Yeah.
And it made all of us look like geniuses. I'll
Yeah.
just leave it at that.
Sorry, I missed it.
I've been to one of them
I
and
could
they
use
were
the
like,
self-esteem.
I feel the same way.
And, by the way,
Hey, Chris.
then I had to call Justin
Let's go to the
Bieber
next
on
one together, and we
Carol
need to go
Austrian
first.
thing.
You
Yeah.
got it.
And he told me that after that meeting, that the planning board, the PB, I think that's different from
PB, yeah.
PB. They've decided after that meeting that they are no longer conducting hybrid meetings.
Really? So they're gonna remove this thing?
Yeah.
Well, frankly, I think we're done with COVID. If you wanna go to a meeting, you should show up.
Well,
A lot of
sure,
people
but a lot of
can't,
people
Nick.
can't.
Well, why can't they?
Huh?
Because they're infirm?
Well,
Yes, me for example.
well, I mean, that night, for sure, it was horrible
If you
out.
stay
It was
with the-
terrible, terrible and dangerous. Having said that, I think if one knows in a town like Hudson that's going through, or maybe not going through, a charter change, why not do everything you can to sort of assuage the allegation that things are
Well,
done
that's true,
underhandedly?
that's true, but there used to be huge turnouts in City Hall for any of these things. You know, people would come with their pitchforks and torches. They
And
were
to
worked
our
all up.
Well, as I think you pointed out on the flurry of emails, or someone did, the law actually is if you don't have to have a hybrid, but you do have to conduct your meeting in a space that can
They can
handle.
handle it. That's-
mob.
Yeah, well, that's the problem.
that
That's
space-
part of our
amen.
problem with,
Yeah.
what is it, 520 Warren Street?
Can I interrupt? When we vote on these board members, do we wanna do a written piece of paper
What
vote?
we've done before.
Like, that's how we do it?
That's what we've done before.
A paper ballot?
Paper ballot?
Yeah.
Just
I don't
write
know.
yes, the name and yes, no?
I'm going with whatever Nick says.
Okay, I have to do that
Well, I
then.
remember because I
just
was
occurred to
looking
me
at the
that
one
we-
no, I
I'm always trying to play.
I know those cigarette ads.
Yeah.
They're amazing, yeah.
Tastes good like a
Cigarette
cigarette should.
I'd rather fight than switch.
My blood sugar is just
I know two people who were neighbors of ours in Fort Montgomery, my hometown upstate.
Yeah.
They both died from drinking.
Yeah, I'll bet that, yeah.
That charcoal filter.
Well, you know what I learned later? Charcoal filter, you know, Jerryman isn't even a brand.
No,
And neither's Lark. Remember Lark had the perforated?
it's actually barely a Hudson Valley community.
uh,
I'm kidding, Target.
Good for you to get that kind of.
Poor
No, I
kids.
remember carrying,
He's right here, sitting right here.
all those great cigarettes. And I love,
Do you, did you get an email from him? Look at the bottom of
and the
his-
smoking man.
Everywhere.
Don't you dare.
He sends out these periodic emails. to everybody saying, yes, sir.
You're welcome.
Look at-
Hi there, how are you?
How you doing?
Good, how are you?
Good.
Yeah.
Sun's out.
How you
Yes.
Good, how are you?
This is our January
Don't worry.
call.
We
Be
live
careful,
again.
we've already, this is already a trap.
We get to live again. How good.
Andrew, good to see you.
And we get to see you. I see your name on a ballot.
Oh, gosh.
Yep.
I haven't done much.
We don't
This
have
is a big day.
We don't have a
Yeah.
forum yet.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
How many?
6.
We need.
Just six?
Yeah.
Two more, we could have a
We
minion
have a minion.
and have a Jewish service.
We
Hey,
could.
Peter.
Hi, Peter.
Hi, Peter.
Well, we're missing,
We're
John
missing
Freeman is
three,
not
huh?
coming. Well,
We are
John
missing
Freeman's
Big
on
John.
Zoom.
And who else?
Are we? Yeah, there's a lot of waiting right there.
Paul,
Paul's not here, Seth's not here.
Seth is coming.
He is? Okay,
Yes,
then we'll
Paul,
hold out.
Seth,
Kristen,
and,
hi, Jan.
Paul, Seth, and John Freeman is not coming.
And we're still,
Kristen,
Kristen, and is she coming?
she didn't say she wasn't coming.
Okay,
I don't
and then
think
of
we
course
did,
the ex officios.
There's under,
I don't think they're.
I think Tom is
I
online.
think we were gonna vote them on today.
Okay, that's good.
All right, okay, all right.
Now, can voting occur online?
Yeah, we should.
No.
Okay.
On the Zoom
Thank you.
call, you have to be present for this,
Yes,
correct?
you do, to vote.
We have enough now for voting?
Huh?
Or?
We don't have a quorum yet.
Oh.
We have a lot of folks in the room, but there,
We have six.
Isn't 8 out of 10? No, we need 8,
we
right?
need 8.
So if we get Paul
Yeah.
and
Over the door.
Seth,
I think we have,
that would be our 8.
we need 2 more.
I just sent Kristen a text, and who's the other person? Seth. I hear the door. Someone's coming in.
That's exciting.
Incoming.
Did you get the pizza, Chris?
It's Seth.
Did you get the
Yay!
pizza? Because I appreciate it.
Yes.
you.
Good.
I didn't have a lunch plan.
It's Seth.
Seth.
Hello. Hey, Seth.
What do you have to report, Seth?
Huh? Come sit next to me. Move the vegetables.
Okay, one last.
Nothing personal, Seth.
Unless Tom.
How you feeling?
Online, Paul, but he doesn't vote.
Winter's coming to an end, maybe.
Well,
We never take.
Oh, they do.
voting
Little
rights away.
things on here, right?
Oh, you think? You think they wanna come back and get us?
You can't vote.
You can't remember, but you could be a voter. You're up.
Well,
The groundhog said we had 6
Theoretically,
more
you might
weeks
have.
of winter.
Well, we have enough.
No, no, just-
groundhogs are notorious about that stuff.
I think he's wrong more than he's right.
Remember when de Blasio killed himself?
Didn't someone accidentally kill Punxsutawney Phil?
No, de Blasio killed Staten Island truck. He
Oh,
dropped her, it was Charlotte, but he
No.
lifted her up.
No, and killed the
And
groundhog,
she wiggled and he dropped her from like a 7-foot height.
and she
And
died.
like 2 weeks later of internal injuries.
Wow.
Yeah, it's like,
that sounds like a scandal.
And look where he is now.
Where's he now?
I heard that, wait, Chuck was a G?
yeah,
Okay.
I heard that Chuck is more accurate.
De Blasio killed the Staten Island groundhog Chuck.
Oh,
He
that
dropped
would
it.
not surprise me.
Oh.
Wait, if our bylaws,
You know,
it's a double negative.
Specific-
If they don't
If the
specifically.
bylaws,
He
if the
was
bylaws
told,
speak.
why, did it frighten him or try to bite him?
It just wiggled and he had it up like Simba, and it like wriggled and he dropped her, and then she died. It's like 2 weeks later.
Thank you.
So now they don't let the mayor handle the groundhog.
I did the same thing and dropped both my kids when they were babies.
And they're still,
And, you know, after a little bit of work, they were fine. I'm surprised that the groundhog didn't,
splay out.
yeah.
Can we call the meeting to order?
Yeah.
That was unhelpful.
Not as well you expected.
Just check one thing, hold on.
Well, no,
Oh, we got folks online, great.
Okay,
Yes.
okay. Doesn't specifically say anything about that.
So we have enough for, we have a
Yeah.
quorum with Tom online, so we're good there.
Okay, so,
what are we doing?
he can send you a text, I guess.
Okay, all right,
Is that what?
that works for me.
Okay, so, hello, everyone. I'm gonna call the February meeting to, order. Thank you for your service to Hudson. This has been a super icy, wintry February, which makes me really glad. I'm sure you all are, that February only has 28 days, and we're almost to the end. The snowbank navigation has been daunting, and as you know, there are many people in Hudson have fallen and gotten hurt over the course of the last 2 weeks. And so we're glad it's going to the careful side of walking and crossing the street. This month has been a little less busy than the last few months we've had when we were pushing on the John L. Edwards project and figuring out, how we were gonna go forward or not with that. We have, of course, the audit is continuing, and Phil has been leading the charge with that, with bookkeeping and with UHY, and it's going along very smoothly. So thank you, Phil, for all that heavy lifting. He'll probably have more to say about that in the financial report or an update of some kind, okay? And that will be presented at our annual meeting, which is March 25th. I did get your email. Next month. This team, Phil, Britt, and Jess, have also been working on ways for us to evaluate projects we might want to undertake for Hudson going forward. This year, last year was John L. Edwards sort of ate up most of our bandwidth, but this year we're going to try to evaluate more projects across more categories, and they've put a lot of time into thinking about a rubric for how we evaluate those kinds of choices. So they're going to share that later in the meeting, and that chart goes with that, I think. Most of you. And as you remember, or maybe you don't, our board terms over the past 5 years have become too synchronized, which gives us a problem in that more than one or two of you, the terms are expiring at the same time. We got into trouble with this back a ways when half the board quit after a meeting, and then we reassigned a couple of their terms to other people, and somehow or other, it was like a Jenga game of timing. So we have to get this straightened out. Our bylaws have board terms for 3 years with a second 3-year term for a total of 6 years in service. Today is the last meeting for Seth and Paul Colarusso and Martha, who have been really given a lot of their time and energy to our work and through the pandemic and else in other ways. And I really want to thank all of you, both of you, Paul certainly, who isn't here, for the work that you did and for the flags that you carried and for the energy that you gave us. I really, really meant a lot. Well, what do you mean they're not going anywhere? Not so fast. We do want to be able to tap back into what, you brought to the board and on items that you helped us to understand, and we will do that liberally in the future when we need to, bring you in. So I hope that you would be open to that. Thank you. We've also become more of a working board without an executive director and support staff. So the roles of our officers are busier during the in-between meetings time period, and the work that they do in terms of thinking and pushing and trying to keep us compliant or keeping us compliant is important. We may decide to add staff in the future. We have discussed that at our previous meeting. an executive director and someone to support that person going forward, but we aren't at that moment yet. For now, Paul has put a lot of time in thinking about how we can shuffle the terms and keep the bench strength that we have and still move forward and grow. So a little later in the meeting, he's gonna do that. Our bylaws state that we can have no less than 9 members and no more than 15 members. In our last board meeting, there were 12 of us. So anticipating a few board members were leaving the nominating committee, and members of the executive committee and members of the board have put forward 2 candidates for us to consider today. You met them the last meeting, Kyle and Andrew, who are sitting right here. They are enthusiastic about leaning in and participating and helping us shape our future. So when we get to that part of the meeting, we'll discuss that further. We are looking for other Hudsonians who could join our board. Of course, diversity is a key item in any board. It's always good to have a diverse board membership. It does require time, energy, and commitment to bring thinking to the table. So many people don't have the time in their schedule, or they're not willing to make those time commitments. So if any of you know other Hudson people who would like to participate in our work, please put them forward. We'd love to meet them. Last, the Hudson Development Corporation is a 501c3 local development corp. We're an independent organization, but we have to be in compliance with the ABO, Authorities Budget Office for New York State organizations like ours. Their mission is to make sure that public organizations like us are accountable and transparent, and make sure that we're acting consistent with our mission statement. So we have a strong mission statement, and we're firmly committed to that. Julie Marshall at Harris Beach, you maybe not have heard us talk about her. They have been helping us, keeping us current with our filings and reporting with the Paris back end of ABO as a Paris report once a year. And they're keeping us compliant with that. And they're working on that right now. They do have another requirement that every board member do a phone call, a compliant phone call. It's like a 9:30 to 11:30 phone call. They put it on two or three times a month. If there's 20 people in the call, and it brings you up to date. It's a class. You just have to have a computer, they say, have a computer, be in a quiet space, and don't do other work, which I guess people do. I don't know.
What's
Anyway.
the class on?
Huh?
What's the class on?
It's talks about compliance and being transparent at 501c3, how we should be behaving. It's just to make sure every board member is aware of the rules and regs for being an organization like we are. And I think it's Martha probably knows it, what is it, once every 2 years or something, you have to take it again?
They recommend once every 3 years.
3 years, okay. Well, I'm pretty certain that most of us need to redo it. So after this meeting, new members have to do it too. So what I will do is after this meeting, I'll send around the email that tells you how to sign up. It's pretty simple. You just send an email with your name, your position, the organization you're in, and your phone number and your email to them, and then they schedule you into one of the classes. The 2 classes are coming up, the 12th of March and the 20th, something like that. So that's about all. That's about all. And is there anything anyone else wants to add to the month? And if not, I'm gonna turn it over to Phil, our treasurer.
Let's approve the minutes, or discuss the minutes.
Hey, how about that? Right there. So,
Motion.
can I have a motion to approve the minutes?
Phil did, I'll second.
Phil second, Paul second, Phil first. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you, Jan.
Thank you.
Phil?
Yeah, I'm just thinking about what, Jen, you should have some slides for me. And let me address what Chris was talking about before. We report in both as a not-for-profit, but also as a public authority. That's the Paris phase. Paris comes up right after the audit. To say the audit is going well is like someone saying they went to the doctor for an invasive examination and it went well. It's very engaging. I have the joy.
I said it was heavy lifting, I didn't undersell it. Phil needs a little more.
But it's going well.
Phil,
We'll get done pretty soon. Lots of interesting questions to answer. Once that's done, we go into the other reporting phase, which is public authority to the New York State Controller, because we are also a public authority. And that is also real interesting. On the budgets, what do we have to put up,
Would you like
Jen?
the board report or the operating costs first?
Let's put up the board report, the traditional 2 pages. The operating costs is a special exhibit I did to look at cash going forward, which I thought would be helpful to everybody.
Mhm.
Because the balance sheet and income statements are great, but they don't fully explain cash all the time. So I thought we needed a third document. There are very few quote unquote changes. There should be no surprises. As you recall, on the bottom, we got in the habit of showing all of the specific vendor costs associated with the JLE project over the last year. Those are mostly blank now because we're getting done, or basically done. I think there was one that we missed putting through last year was CHIP.
Yep.
But other than that, those expenses are finished. Let's go to the balance sheet. Good. We did meet, I don't know if everybody was involved or it was just the executive committee with our brokerage folks. We've had, I think, a very good experience working with those guys over the last year. We asked them to be very thoughtful about risk. And we asked them to deliver whenever possible, something around 5%. We think we might be able to do better than 5%, but our point is that steady income from the investment portfolio has been critical to supporting operations. That said, there are opportunities that may come up that will want us to look at capital and use it in other ways. And Jen, if you could then go to the cash position page.
Is that a different document?
Yes,
Okay.
it's called something,
It's in a financial position.
no, it's a different exhibit. There were 3 pages. 2 were bound together as a single,
Okay.
as the board report, and 1 was separately called something else.
Operating costs?
Operating costs. No, there's operating.
Okay.
No,
So is this your,
That's your balance.
this is it?
there's
right?
2 in that one pile there.
Yeah,
no, covered those.
this
It's a
one?
3rd page.
We covered both of these?
Yeah.
Okay.
I couldn't find it.
I can't find that.
All right, let me talk about it. It's called Operating Costs Hudson Development Corp.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And it's got monthly and annual.
That was It was
Yeah, you
just
had it up earlier.
You had it up earlier.
Right here.
Good.
Mhm.
We did this exhibit specifically just to give you a sense of how the cash position runs during the year. And I pay a great deal of attention to it because if you look at these expenses as opposed to the other exhibit, which was JLE, and most of that is gone, our operating expenses just for regular stuff, insurance, rent, some basic professional service that we gotta have, like accounting, maintaining the building, it's maintaining the website, run to about 93 grand a year. Excuse me, we can quibble about bringing any of that stuff up or down, or we can say we may or may not need that stuff, but at the end of the day, whether you want to call it 93 or 83, we have significant operating expenses just to keep on going as an entity. Interestingly, that tends to match pretty much what we would expect in investment income. So while the JLE took on more expense with that off the table, we need to be conscious that we're walking a line, and we should be aware that as we commit to other investments, and I hope we do, it's got implications for our operating cash, and we'll need to figure out how to replace that going forward.
I would just add to that we are growing this. It might seem like we're just investing in ourselves, and of course, paying, using that money wisely. There were years when HDC had no money and was running on fumes. So this is not a great deal of money that we're investing. This is money that came as a result of selling the Cares Warehouse and our other properties. Our objective was to grow this fund while we figure out to make it more powerful so we can do more important projects in Hudson. So we're on a little bit of a runway of growth to get to a place where we will be able to, invest and support projects that will be within our mission for Hudson. So it's not just a financial equation on our side, it really has a goal.
Okay. That's a financial report. We've got other bits of businesses. At the next meeting, we will present a quote unquote final budget for 2025 for you all to review. But I wanted you to have some background on where we're at and what we're doing on the financial stuff. Everything is, we were talking before the meeting, it's transparent. Anybody on the board can get in touch with me anytime to question a number or how we're reporting something, or for that matter, we're looking for an additional member for the finance committee with Martha completing her term. So somebody who would like to work with me and John Friedman or whomever on the finance committee, kind of raise your hand after the meeting, and there's work to be done.
Any questions about the report?
Yeah, so, Phil, the 5% projected return, what are we investing in? Because the market's.
It's mostly bonds and laddered CDs. It's extremely conservative. The board did not want to venture too far in terms of risk.
Sure.
That said, as you know, there's the risk of doing and there's the risk of not doing.
Yeah.
The beautiful conundrum. I have been talking to our guys about coming back to us with an equity component to the portfolio.
Okay.
And I will get that to y'all, and I want to present that because I don't think it's a good portfolio policy to have zero equities in this market.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I mean, and who's, these are things that we can chat about.
Our investment group is Babcock Advisors in Albany.
Okay.
They're great.
What's their fee?
What's the
Huh?
Yeah, that's where I'm going. What's the fee?
I'd have to look it up. I don't think it's material, but I'll get that to you.
Okay, is it, what we can, is it a percentage point or is it a flat fee? Do you know, off the top of your head?
I don't. What I remember is it's quite low,
Sure.
but also, we're pretty straight up. Usually, entity like ourselves commits to, a strategy, they present that and basically implement it. We're not exactly a heavy lift.
Sure.
Let's talk after the meeting. And I'm highly suspicious that you have a finance background. I see a recruiting opportunity
I wrote it down.
for the finance
You can
committee.
hardly-
Yeah, I'm not on board yet.
Yeah, no, you're not, but you
Well,
can hardly feel it.
Nonetheless, we welcome volunteers. And I see an opportunity for you to get on the phone with me with Babcock. Just saying,
Yeah, we should chat afterwards.
we're just chatting.
We should chat.
We're just chatting.
Could I have a vote to approve the
Motion.
motion?
I make a motion.
Someone make that
For the
motion.
financial report.
Second,
All in favor?
aye.
Thank you very much.
It's a rolling motion.
That was a good motion.
3 people, how many people does it take to bring a motion? Okay, thank you, Phil. Now we're gonna turn to Paul, who's been working on the term, the sledding and shifting terms for board members. So Paul?
Yeah, to get us, to get the board members more on staggered terms, so as Chris mentioned earlier, we had so many board members who were all expiring. The terms were up all at the same time. So you all have the sheets in front of you. Just to review, the executive committee, we're voted on annually. So we're just reelected every year unless there's some discussion where, the rest of the board wants a change, but that just sort of happens automatically, right? So we're renewed every year. Right now, as of today, we have set Paul Colorizzo and Kristen Peck. Their terms are all up in 2025, like as of the next meeting, and Kristen is up in June. Then we have John and Britt, their terms are up in 2027. My recommendation is going to be with any new candidates we bring onto the board, and I think right now we're probably looking at 4, is the first 3, and 2 candidates we get today, is to bring them on for 1 year with their successive 3-year term to follow. So, but at the end of this year, then if you look down below, we'll have 3 then directors terming out in 2026, 3 in 2027, and 3 in 2028. And if you just keep adding 3 to that, we'll probably maybe have some drop off, people may leave. However, we'll always be looking for new candidates coming on, and really the magic number is going to be either 1, 2, or 3. I would never want to recommend anyone come on for 4 because I think, Martha, that's would probably require some sort of like a bylaw change or something. And since our terms,
Which Crystal didn't recommend, as I recall.
yeah. So I mean, we'll just keep it to the 3 anyway. So it's that 1, 2, 3 is really where our flexibility is going to be. I am the bylaws committee. Martha Lane just had a meeting. This is purely discussion today.
Is that posted?
Where I thought perhaps where 2 3-year consecutive terms, and then you term off, directors term off for a year, and then you're invited
So,
back. It was gonna be my suggestion we discuss eliminating that 1-year term off, but Martha, I welcome.
well, I just wanted to mention, the Excel spreadsheet that Branda did before she left with all the board members and their terms. Are we updating that? That's
We will be updating that.
Okay,
Yeah,
There's really
that's-
not much.
no.
because I think there might be some conflict here about term and ending, so we should look at that.
Okay.
Okay,
Martha, what do you mean by kind?
Different term, when people's first and second terms end don't necessarily match what I see here.
Okay,
Am I-
so consistency. Yeah.
Say, for example, Seth or
I show, and again, this was updated last in 2022, that Seth's second term ends, where are you, Seth? 3, 1 of 25. Yeah, that's what it says. Okay, so, but over here it says, what's 3, 1 of 28 then? I don't.
Well, that would have been if we
If you continue.
don't do the 1 year, we eliminate term.
Oh,
The 1 year off.
oh,
So this is where we're gonna have,
shifting sand.
don't discuss this too much in front of Seth and Paul because they might catch on. What that means is, according to our bylaws, after the next meeting, your 2 successive 3-year terms are up, but I was hoping then that we would just, at the next meeting, eliminate that 1 year term off, but, that's really. up
As
for
I recall,
discussion.
Crystal didn't recommend that either.
Because to me, everyone would always be reevaluated at the end of 3 years. And if that person then really just didn't want to continue serving, they would step down, or if there was some issue with the rest of the board, that vote would just be taken at that time. And again, I just see this really as for the preservation of the organizations, again, as candidates are really so hard to find, and this truly is a working board that, the whole JLE.
Yeah.
Once we really all get involved, to have someone, gear up and then all of a sudden they have to drop off in a year, I think isn't all that efficient.
I think one of the issues that we had is that we weren't actively pursuing new board members during the period of the pandemic. And so this confluence of people terming off, and we would have possibly, we wouldn't be in such a desperate spot, not a desperate spot, we wouldn't be in this spot if we had been pursuing board members throughout this period of time. And I know in the last year, we have, during the JLE work, we have been talking to people about joining the board. And no one has, of those conversations, nothing has come forward until the last couple of months. So it's something we should be actively doing all the time in order to keep our board, growing and fresh.
Martha, in addition to Paul and Seth, can you see, is Kristen's term on?
Kristen Keck,
It's
her
June.
second term ends 6/1 of 25.
Yeah,
So
That's
we would
accurate.
have to ask the permission too if they wanted to continue, but right now then we would have 3 candidates stepping, who would have to term off for a year, so we would be
we
losing
have
3.
4 in June. It would be
No.
these 3
No.
now.
Oh, Martha too, yeah.
These 3 now and Kristen in June.
Yeah, I'm sorry, and
That's
Martha, I knew you were officially terming out, so I didn't put you back on, but that's true, we would be down for board members.
And I think the idea is they can serve on committees, they can certainly attend meetings and contribute, but I think Crystal made the point that there is a good reason to have people term out and bring new blood in onto any board.
Okay.
It's prudent, good governance. So I've seen it elsewhere. But I think do the bylaws state, any way to approve an exception to the bylaws?
I think that takes an individual motion, like for example, today, the new candidates in the vote, the nomination would be 1 year plus 3, so that would be very individual and very specific, not really changing the bylaws. And that can be done, I know that can be done. It's just that the board members were going to,
Yeah,
who are going to turn out right now, that's.
Yeah.
for-
I think maybe what Martha is suggesting, we should have another conversation with Crystal about how to handle this. Crystal's our attorney. And see if we can not upset the bylaws in a way that she doesn't feel comfortable with, but
She was the one who said that we could extend the terms of all the
executive committees.
right to provide continuity.
All right, because if we stick with the bylaws and don't make that change and these 4 directors term out, then my recommendation would be then to bring the new ones on for the 3 and
For the regular 3-year term. Okay. We are following, Martha, we are following the Columbia Economic Development Bylaw. Executive committee are elected each year by the board at the annual meeting, and there's a clause to remove, people can run against them, as they should be, anybody, please. And you can also remove a director. There's a mechanism to remove somebody. The full board can remove one of the directors if they are no longer functioning to the full capacity. So I think that's good. I think we're in sync with that. But, so maybe we should just, for the time being, stay with the idea of three years and a term off.
I hate to see 4
I know.
directors come.
Committees. She said it.
Uh-huh.
Does anybody have anything to add about this?
Discussion up to.
Rick, do you have any ideas, or Jess?
I think 1 year is pretty short.
Well, and again, I only recommended that
Yeah. Give them notice.
to create that staggered date, but
Slip.
now I wouldn't recommend it. I would just say bring in any candidate on for the 3 and 3.
Better. I understand the reason for wanting turnover and fresh blood and all that kind of stuff. But there's situations where people know a lot of stuff, and it's very unhelpful to lose them, whatever. 3 years sounds great if we can do that, Paul.
You mean, for the new candidates?
Yeah.
Oh,
Stay
absolutely.
with the-
And had all things been equal, as I said, if we were gonna try to arrive here, but we can't.
Okay.
It sounds
Okay.
like.
It sounds like though is there opportunity for like, as opposed to changing the bylaws, which would have a longer term impact on the whole objective of having a 1-year lapse. If there's a temporary solution because of the situation the board is in, for some of those folks that are expiring to be able to stay on.
Again, the way I read into it, again, for the preservation of the organization, I think it is critical, and I would read into exactly that.
And yet, we're not in the middle of any significant projects. You know, we wrapped up John L. Edwards, there's,
Well, again, this is what I'm asking about the exception
know.
process to the bylaws, is that if there's, is there a documented way to, you know, seek the exception, not change the bylaws, not recognizing that the bylaws are there for a reason and good governance, but we could seek an exception. There's an exceptional basis for preserving the board, keeping it intact as we continue to think about growth, opportunity. But it's a slippery slope in that
according to Crystal, it's just for the executive committee, that exception.
type of exception.
I mean, I did step off the board and served on a committee for a year to come back on. And, you know, it's as somebody who's running the organization, it's scary to see somebody leave and say, oh, you could be on a committee. Because a lot of people, once you step off the tram, you're back there. But it is another way, if some member of the board is really contributing significantly, and we couldn't imagine working without them, then a committee situation is probably the best way to go. Okay? We don't need a motion for that, do we?
No,
That was just a discussion.
This is all a discussion that
Okay.
should come to the voting.
Okay. Okay,
So,
then.
but I do just want
Thank you.
to sum up then, that we will have 4 directors turning on.
Yes.
Okay.
We'll see you guys in a year on your new committee.
Martha's blushing. Okay, we're moving to new business.
Did we just re-recruit Martha?
Yes, we're moving to new business. But the good news is, there's 2
Yes.
candidates that the nominating committee has, Britt brought them to our attention, Andrew and Kyle. And the nominating committee met them individually, and other members of the executive committee met with them, and we are happy that they have said that they would be willing to serve on our board, should they be nominated to join. I'll just give you the pencil sketch. We circulated their info to you in the email that went out, but Andrew's currently a VP at Savanta, working with Blue Chip American accounts on high-impact research engagements. He's responsible for bringing in $2.2 million in new business projects annually, and he manages project teams of 1 to 4 people on projects to meet clients' objectives. He's a managing partner at Halsey Development Group, which is based in Hudson, focused on real estate development. Previously, he worked to inform private equity firms and financial service clients about risks of investment by researching companies, markets, and transactions. Research, I love that. Thank you. We need that. He lives on State Street with his wife and his beautiful dog, Gus.
Yes,
Puppy.
most importantly.
Gus is very fluffy, yeah. Gus is a regular coffee guy in the morning. And Kyle's an executive with extensive experience in risk management, finance, and business strategy. Currently, he's Senior Vice President of Strategic Risk Framework and Appetite at MasterCard. I never saw the word appetite used like that. That's good, I get it. But that's not an appetite. Should I use my MasterCard? It's bigger than that.
Risk it.
Should I use my card on this? Kyle is a global transformation leader at Citigroup, spearheading risk appetite and capital planning alignment and regulatory compliance. And at Deloitte, he advised top global financial institutions. He holds an MS in risk management from NYU Stern and a BA in religion from Wabash College in Indiana. He lives in Hudson with his husband Wesley and his pup Rowan. So we have 2 dog guys putting forward to join the board. Does anyone on the board have any questions you would like to ask them in person? They did come to our last meeting last time, and they are more enthusiastic after that meeting and joining us going forward. So if you don't have any questions for them, if either one of you would like to make a statement, we're happy to hear what you have to say.
Sure.
Andrew?
Yeah, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
And thank you for putting me forward. I'm excited. I have to say, it was great to learn about this board's existence, because I moved to Hudson a few years ago, and I'm becoming quite involved in the community, and I want to make this community better, though I already love it. I think there's always work to be done. So when I came and met you folks and saw that there were some really smart people actually working on the community that were doing so just with their spare time, that's compelling. So I would like to be a part of that. There's many things that I'm interested in, and that I feel that I can add value to. So I would love to use that to help.
All right. Good. Look forward to that.
I mean, I'd echo a lot of the comments and sentiment that Andrew just shared. Wesley and I did move up here a number of years ago, handful of years ago, purposefully, and we chose to be here in Hudson. We think this is a wonderful community that has given us a home, because we're both transplants to New York State. I'm from Indiana. Wes is from Charleston, South Carolina. And so we do call Hudson home. But, as Andrew mentioned as well, I think that there's opportunity to continue to make it better for all people, not just newcomers to Hudson, but for those who have been here all of their lives. And so I'm looking forward to digging in and helping where we can.
Thank you.
Thank
I'm
you.
looking forward to it too. Okay, this is a very high-tech situation. This is the ballot, okay? Okay, everybody has one in front of them, voting members. And Tom and Kamal, if you would send Paul a text with your vote.
Tom and Mr. Mayor, my number is 518-755-3296. And if you just want to text me a yay or a nay on these 2 candidates, that would be terrific.
Can we just pass it towards you?
And pass it towards, over to the secretary.
We voting now?
There will be no hanging chads. Thank you. Thank you. Look at the candidates and you're turning in votes.
That was the vote.
Wait a minute, you didn't-
Right there.
you didn't vote.
I slipped one in there.
Hey, wait a minute.
Hey, wait a minute.
Here.
Okay, so Paul will be counting those up.
As long as I'm up.
Okay,
You got many recounts.
this would be, before we go into the rest of the meeting, I would encourage those of you who have not had a piece of pizza to get up and get that, because we're gonna go into this part of the presentation, and you might wanna have done that if you wanna do that.
So pizza break for a minute?
Pizza break, yes.
Brilliant.
That'll be tabulated. Phil, don't go through the middle, go around it.
Because I did that last time.
Yeah, that was, the owl begs you to go around.
You want?
Okay,
I heard it from, Tom from Avery.
So it's okay to vote on the Zoom, is
As
it?
long as they come into me directly.
Okay, that's good. Maybe going forward, we never come to meetings, we just.
don't be encouraging that.
All right.
For those of you dialing in, we're taking a short break.
Cities of wonderful organizations. You're right.
Oh, thank you, Tom.
I have. I got dressed.
I think it's gonna be a good one. I think people are gonna love our little roadmap.
Martha, did I just speak to you on this thing? I didn't do that.
That's good.
No,
That's kind of a companion idea.
You have to do a second, and I'm sure it's not easy, I'll write it down anyway. We have to get people and new people.
Okay.
And we do have people that want to join, Justin Goldman did it, and we spoke to him. Having a banker might be a good idea.
Very.
So we're gonna put a paper in front of you, a pen in your hand.
No, I
And we're
do
gonna
not
tell you
want to
about
overstay my welcome.
what you change. And there's a process. And you need to tell us how you're gonna do it. If we don't like it, we're gonna tell you how you're gonna change. That's
And
basically.
how's your new home? Does it feel like home?
It does.
Have you been there for a year yet?
I'll be a year next week.
Oh,
I
good.
just painted the bathroom.
Oh, nice.
So right down there, like, I was the transformation leader.
So I lime washed.
You know, it's a regular thing, yeah, so it's like, because it used to look like.
Capital, real capital.
It's an issue.
They didn't like that.
No, it's a really hard job.
They tried, they tried. to fire
Oh, that
me.
is
They tried
so
to
cool.
fire me.
Yeah, decide what to
You know how to
do
clear a Band-Aid.
with the wall, that's why I said,
Yeah,
their
do
wall.
lime washing.
Yeah, but they just don't like
Can you
that.
hear us?
A
or-
director in risk, news company, was standing up to lifelong committee heads of desks.
Their wall.
Like,
Lime washing, it's so fun, it's like painting with a watercolor brush.
like, hard to get.
Yeah.
Cool.
He's so beautiful.
So they didn't like that. They said.
Are you showing her your bathroom?
No, yeah, it's not how it's working.
I'm so excited by the
She
paint.
made it so much better.
When I originally got there, I delivered.
We're gonna go past our 1 o'clock.
Successfully.
Yeah.
And the shop master, it's just like, and moving into technology was what I wanted to do. And so I took an honorable move. And
Put
then-
those chickens back in.
So,
Good jobs, come on.
so yeah, it's been MasterCard's, I mean, again, like, Caesar's a great company. There's some really, they're really great.
Oh,
It's just tough, but it's a really tough culture
it was helpful.
and
Yeah,
it doesn't do well. But like, I really struggle to lead under Jane's leadership. I was in meetings with Jane. And the big five, like her big directs. She's incredible. And she,
That's good.
yeah, she really is. Like,
It can bode well for the future.
yeah, I mean, she's an incredible leader. And Marcus was one of the favorites there, and it's doubled in the last 3 years.
They haven't.
So, yeah,
Sounds like, you found a better fit.
yeah, MasterCard is, you know, all big companies have their challenges. But MasterCard is a wonderful, wonderful place. Like, I share this publicly with people that I'm interviewing. My first time at MasterCard to like pick up my bag, that's. I saw 2 separate interactions, people touching each other, walking in the company. That's the kind of place to be.
Good for you. Yes.
Yeah,
Makes such a big difference working down.
and it's the size of the city. So we have this one, this is the- MasterCard is 30. Yeah. But for
Comparison is small, but
this one-
I work for a fine.
It's a long
Yeah. My first job was. And like,
okay.
Yeah, which can be great, because like, I have really strong relationships with all the executives. It's helped me, but stayed for 5 years. Yeah, I mean, it's good people I work with.
Are we back?
We're back. No, but that's my background. We do survey research. It's my job to design it, sell it, put it on it, make it go through.
Hey, Jess,
Right
I think I'm gonna do the standing up.
Okay, I encourage you.
Yeah.
I'm gonna sit.
You sure? Because there's more energy.
I'm gonna
say.
I'm not.
Okay,
Saying.
here comes Paul.
I'm gonna try.
Okay, before you do that, Phil, don't start yet,
Huh?
don't start yet.
No, this was just me getting up.
Oh,
I
okay.
wanted a lot of time.
Okay, you want time for the blood to settle.
Well, it's a 45-second process. I'm up now.
Okay. Well, the secretary has tallied the votes, and
We had 8 for each with 1 abstain.
so we'd like to say welcome to the HDC board.
Thank you.
Okay, that was good. Thanks.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Exciting.
welcome.
Excited.
Okay, then now we're gonna have to get you into training, get your bios up on our website. you know,
Maybe
the
I'll
whole-
say
the
maybe
whole
2 and 2.
management thing has to happen. Okay, so with that, I'm gonna turn it over to the future project evaluation process, which I hinted at earlier that Phil and Jess and Greg have been working on. So, Phil, take it away.
Thanks very much. Thank you all for, well, thank you all. First slide. On that, Jan. All right, we're in agreement. I wanted to put up our mission statement, not with the intent of spending a lot of time on it. We're all pretty familiar with it. But it's our North Star. It guides a lot of what we do and say, and areas that we choose or don't choose to be active in. And I think it's actually a great mission statement. It has some very intentional specificity about job creation, business development, and collaboration. And it also has some very intentional non-specificity to give us an opportunity to hear people out in the community who are speaking or presenting or sharing an important need or concern. And we have the latitude to respond to that in a positive way, even if it's not directly linked to job A, B, or C, or building D, E, and F. But if it boosts the community, creates an economic impact even indirectly, which is things like schooling and postgraduate education for our high school kids, or training, or maybe it serves something that's been identified as an unmet need, like a new place for the youth center to operate. All of that can be within scope. So enough on that. Let me talk for a minute about what the mission doesn't do. Definitely a North Star, definitely guideposts, definitely parameters, definitely some great language for us to use and think about. But it doesn't intentionally get down to the level of how do we choose, where we spend our time, and which projects we focus on and which we don't. It gives us a general ground that we're supposed to be dealing with, but an area could be something like childcare. Everybody cares about that a great deal from the work we did last year, and we just know it. It's a national concern. What we have to do, though, is we can't stay at that level of abstraction or we can't get stuff done. So it has to get down specifically in that building, in this period of time, for this population, can we fund and provide a deliverable? And that's what this presentation is about, basically, is getting to go and still being able, in a very efficient way, to look at lots of different options and making some choices. So let's go to the next slide. One of the most exhilarating bits of being in kind of public life in Hudson for me last year was the way we systematically met and talked to pretty much, Chris, I think all the major institutions in the city about wants and needs. Pretty much most of the major not-for-profits, definitely the good folks in Albany from time to time about funding, definitely folks in City Hall about collaboration. And it was a spectacular experience to have those contacts, at least for me. Maybe not everybody's cup of tea, but it was more fun than the audit, for example. Maybe I don't have appropriate reference points.
It's got a
But
very low threshold.
But for me, coming out of a web of numbers, the engagement with people was really cool. And what was really cool was the number of ideas that people presented to us. I'm pretty confident that we wouldn't find too many people in our great Hudson population who don't have an idea or a vision of doing something better in town. And I'm not talking about people who want to scold. I'm talking about people who say, we could really use this feature in town, or we could really use this public space, or we could really use some financial support, or we could really use somebody to write a grant for us, or we could really use a cup of coffee to talk about what we're doing. We can do all that. That's what your local development corporation is for. So it's exciting. There's no limit in terms of opportunities. And let's go on through the dash points. This is our meeting today. We're gonna break presenters in the middle, for which you probably will be quite grateful after I'm done. And Jess and Britt are gonna take over the presentation on a lot, really, the heart and soul of it in terms of implementing our vetting process and what that looks like. So you'll be done with me in a slide or two, but I come back at the end, you can't get rid of me.
Big finish.
Totally. I don't think the planning part is hard at this point, or at least in this part of the scale chart. But it's work. I doubt that everybody in the board has a true sense of how many people we talked to last year, all of the contacts and all of the ideas that were generated in good faith by folks who passionately wanted to do something for Hudson. And maybe we couldn't squeeze all of that energy into one building, but we have all of Hudson now to work in and focus on, and there's no limit to the ideas and the opportunity to solicit new ideas. We count on the board because we do. You guys run the show, you determine the budgets. We anticipate new members and old will come forward with stuff that we haven't thought about, whether it was in their heads or it's a contact they made or a conversation they had or somebody they heard or saw on the street or in the press. So starting this moment is what I'll call board outreach, which is to trigger everybody's sensibility in coming forward with project ideas that are within the mission, that enable us to get good stuff done. We're also obviously going to review all the previous proposals and mine that and recontact folks. And my colleagues are going to address this more specifically, but we are going to do community outreach to trigger anybody who wants to come to us with either an idea or a proposal, and we are going to structure that into our website. So the notion of quote unquote applying to HDC for help with a grant or some sort of funding or some sort of promotional event is as uncomplicated as possible and as efficient as possible. All that sounds good, except how do you do it? And you can't do it the way I just did it, talk it. Some things don't happen just because you talk them. We have to have, what was your word? Robust. Did you say that?
You did, because you didn't like one of my earlier ones.
Yeah, I didn't like her earlier words. So we have to have a robust vehicle that consistently allows us to debate, keep a record, know exactly who came in to talk to us and organize our next steps. And that fades into reviewing and vetting proposal. The issue of fairness is interesting. We have not recently, I'm sure in past years we have, but the vision here is not looking at a project or two projects or three projects. If we can get our mojo going and our gateway on the website going and our board conversations going, We would like to see us vetting like a dozen projects at a time and seeing which ones make sense. But more than make sense, we created some vetting parameters. We created them, we can remove them, but I want you to look at them and see if that's what you want us to do from a vetting point of view, and how you would feel possibly as an applicant to us for a grant or for money or for support or publicity, whatever, with those parameters. And last is gathering proposals and information, and that's kind of self-explanatory. We gather it. Am I off camera now? What do you want, Jess?
Yeah, we can go, we can keep moving.
I'm doing vet and select, or you?
That's me.
That's what I was trying to say.
Yeah, that's me.
I think you gotta stand up, I'm telling you,
Uh,
it works.
I'm okay, I'm owl level.
All right, loud then.
You were at naval level.
Okay, so we're looking at 6 broad categories of consideration to visualize vetting parameters and to define what constitutes a good, viable idea. I'm gonna pass around a handout and you may have to share.
Phil, paper.
Paper.
You will have to look upon your neighbor.
So these charts get spread out?
Yeah, you'll have to share,
Got
share with any of them, but, this is just running through 3 hypothetical programs. And we're running through these broad categories to see what it might look like. It's the Hudson Apprenticeship Program, Navigating Hudson Guides, or How to Launch a Business in Hudson, and a childcare program. So this is just hypothetical, look, mentions a lot of questions. This is just a way of thinking through what you'll need and what partners and funders should ask you. So does it align with HDC's mission and goals, first and foremost? Does it address a need or a gap in the business community? What kind of public input does it need? Strong projects will have identified partners and sponsors that are ready to go. How much does it cost? Is there a funding strategy? What are the risks involved in terms of legality and liability? And what are the engagement and communications elements that you'll need to plan for? So I can give you a moment to look at that.
So are these 3 specific opportunities that were put into this framework, or?
They're just hypothetical
Oh,
programs.
They're straw men to demonstrate the model. Maybe we're wrong, we didn't want to put necessarily a real project down because it contradicts the concept of a process.
Sure.
We're not gonna just stick pins in this thing, we actually gotta work on it.
So Jen, if you want to go to the next slide. Keep going. So in the development phase, you want to build the public engagement process for each project depending on what it needs right at the start. And we've talked a lot about the challenges of defining and measuring impact. So you'll need to define clear outcomes right at the start so that you can articulate the success of the project at the end. And you'll need people on board to lead relationship building and project management and grant reporting and outreach. So whether that's by committee or if that's added capacity. Next one, please.
Jess, can I jump in on that? The burden is on the applicants as well, and I reckon you're getting to that. Somebody, with so much stuff happens on the street, it's a small town. We're gonna run into folks who wanna get stuff done pretty much every day if you go outside. And it's very hard to have metrics on certain things. They just aren't measurable. If I were to push one parameter, it's that the person we're talking to or partnering with has a clear idea of what success looks like.
Yeah,
And maybe it's on a metric.
I would add to that, when you're building the application process and what those forms look like and what they collect, all of that would be collected then. And then the proposal review, if you're looking at this, this chart, these are just the things you want to think through so that you know what people will ask, and especially in the funding capacity.
Do you want me to jump into the Cartesian thing?
Yeah,
I have a quick question.
we have one.
So I think I totally understand it as far as from the applicants trying to provide and meet all these criteria. Is it that, what is the applicant asking of us is the question? Like our support, but is there any specificity around the type of project? Or is it basically, this is kind of like for any project and our involvement in that project will just differ, but big picture, we just need it to fit?
Yeah, I don't even think it needs to necessarily fit all of these criteria. I think it's just a consideration to go through and say, this is what we might need to think about. I think each project would be different and each proposal would be very different.
But are they coming to HDC for funding?
I think it'll be different. I think primarily it's gonna be funding, but as Phil kind of started, it could be, hey, I need a space and a cup of coffee to discuss my idea, or I need a business roundtable. So majority is probably gonna be funding based, but it's gonna be a variety of different amounts of funding, different amount of input. It might be, hey, I just need help writing a grant. Can you connect me with some local grant writer that can maybe help? Can you help underwrite the grant? So I think there's a lot of different types of help they may be asking for, but because we haven't done community outreach, we don't really know what people want from HDC and how we can help the community.
You're trying to build a process to be able to catch those requests and methodically assess them
Exactly.
and then appropriate.
Otherwise, we're just gonna get
Per our strategy.
everything coming at you at like a cocktail party on the street, like.
And it doesn't get memorialized that way. We really have to grab it in a formal way and memorialize it. No project is gonna tick every box, nor do we expect it to.
And some probably might not be a good fit for us, and we need to be able to say, hey, we looked at it, you're not a good fit, and here's why, and not have someone feel that it was
Just
a
rejected.
capricious decision, yeah.
People also need to know why we can't help them.
I also think it's a good opportunity for us to define what HDC is and what we do. Because I think many people are confused about why we even exist and don't really believe in the organization or don't know what we could do from an economic development standpoint in Hudson. And I think it's an opportunity to kind of, be careful about presenting ourselves in the way that we want to be seen and what we can do, but also intake projects that are right for us.
Yeah, we can't
With the system.
overextend
Yeah.
ourselves.
I would think most applicants would be coming for funding.
Yeah.
And I also think that we would want to be, I think caution being the byword coming into this is that we don't have a lot of money. I think we need to build this war chest more substantially before we think about either loaning it at a percentage. There needs to be a return on the investment in some capacity to us, I would think. So I would like us to be cautious and build our war chest to perhaps, I don't know if we can double it quickly, but maybe we can work at it.
Well, with the right amount of
The right
risk.
amount of risk, yes, that's true.
We could double it. For the new members, our superpower as a local development corporation is we're uniquely suited to bring in private money to public works. And I would love to see more opportunities to do that. There are other ways to do it, but an LDC is definitely a way to do it. On the other hand, and Chris is absolutely right, a lot of people conflate us with the city government, Hudson Development Corporation. It must be. We're not, we're a private not-for-profit. So we have this superpower, But we also have the absolute ability to make our own decisions on what we pursue and what we spend.
Yeah, and so to that point though, if we're, and we should, aspirations of what we want to do with our coffers.
Yep.
That's, I mean, I think it's certainly part of this conversation, but have we thought about, or have we developed kind of like a service offering type thing? Because I don't think we can, we don't want to be this, you know, the shop that everyone just comes to for money and then we say, well, we don't have deep pockets, so no. We end up being the no shop.
And no one's gonna share their information with us if we don't have something to offer them.
Right, so that's my point, is like, have we defined what we can offer them outside of,
Nothing's
Outside of just
defined
cash.
completely, but I'll give you an example of some interesting freebies that we could work on. Not free to us, we'd have to devote resource to it. People come in as newbies to town, wanting to start a new business. They are baffled and boggled by the committees and commissions and some of the regulatory system. We can map that for them, for their project. We can introduce them to preservation planning and zone enforcement so that they understand it. And we can facilitate people getting off the ground as a new business developer coming to Hudson in a very positive way. And it's not a cash expense, but it actually, if you look at the time to money on a business investment, it is a hugely valuable offer that we can make. We have an experienced grant writer of considerable skill on the team. I won't mention her name. But we could talk to people about enabling them to get their grant done and participating in that process, or identifying local sources, and so on.
Being a grant pass through.
Right.
Although, you know, the calls that I get are, you know, I'm opening a restaurant and I can tell you right now, there are no grants available. What 90% of the people I engage with need is a business plan. Even the really sophisticated ones who come to me, they have a plan, but their projections are based on something that, you know, would work in Brooklyn and, you know, but they're just unrealistic. They need someone to vet that plan. We could either engage business consultants to help them develop that plan and their projections, reasonable projections, or we can just refer them to SBDC in Albany. It's free. Anybody can get a business plan there, and they have some really competent consultants. And just stay engaged with their advisors so that we're kind of helping them through the process and making sure they get the plan. Once they have the plan, okay, well, you know, maybe there is some little grant program available, but if not, we can help you with the other funding sources, because we're not the only funding source. Pursuit Lending makes loans throughout New York State, and they're also a micro lender. So maybe we're just kind of a referral organization.
I think that's a great point.
I think there's tremendous value in that. I mean, and I think, Phil, what you pointed out as the superpower ties into that as well. I feel that that's a lot to offer beyond just financial support.
Yeah.
I think that, to Kyle's point, and kind of why I asked the question to begin with, that needs to be clear to applicants, is that we have that to offer and that that's what they're applying for if they're sending us this.
Yeah.
Because you can't apply for a grant until you have your plan finalized and, you know whether you're gonna be creating jobs and whether you're willing to commit to those jobs. I mean, there's just so much you have to do before you can apply for a grant.
I mean, at a minimum, we should be able to say that we are a conduit and accelerator to unlock, you know, or to cut through, right? I'm just gonna use words, the bureaucracy, cut through tape, whatever. That's not to, I don't mean to offend anyone if that does.
Streamline.
will.
It's just
Streamline it
like,
back.
like that's, because that very point that we talked about earlier was coming here to Hudson. I'll just talk about my own experiences. Like, coming here to Hudson and figuring out how I can, make renovations to my home. I couldn't have done anything if that wasn't for, but like, it's hard to understand that and figure that out. And there's, it's exponentially harder to start a business and that's what we're here for. And so I think so I guess maybe an action could be to help refine some of the, lack of better words, service offerings, the things that how we can help with that.
Total,
And that could
100%.
be the
We
business
should
roundup.
have that offering, is what I'm hearing. We should do and we can do.
So another way to think about like a potential project, if it's good for us, is we can run it through Jess's chart. And then we kind of were talking about this idea of this Cartesian plane. And if we might come up with a couple projects that are sample projects. So in December, I had suggested movie night. And I was like, how great for us to do movies on the waterfront. We'd be activating the waterfront, we'd be having community events, and we could engage like local food trucks and vendors. Let's say the Padrona hot dog truck would come down and do something, or a local pizza truck or something. So this is something that has, a decent amount of impact. And so you'd say, all right, it's a good amount of impact and it's not that much investment. So it's a little bit of impact and, so that's not a bad spot to be in. We're not getting any money back necessarily, so it's not a return on funds, but we're getting goodwill. It's not a lot of time investment. It's 1 to 2 days and it doesn't have a ton of capacity for HDC to do. We wouldn't need a lot of staff, we wouldn't need a lot of monitoring. And what does success look like with this? It looks like, 50 people showed up and we had a good turnout and the local food vendors made a good amount of money.
They got a good buzz.
Yeah, but it would cost us, $1,500 to pay Story Screen to put on the movie. But we'd be supporting a local business. Something much bigger, I had suggested would be like greening the parking lot at the farmer's market. This is like a huge amount of time, money, and staff, because we would need, I would have to either do it pro bono, but you'd have to have engineering and architectural drawings. You'd have to submit it for permitting. You'd have to get it bidded out. You'd have to have approval processes through county. And also it's a minimum of a $250,000 item. So you'd be writing for grants or you'd have to be using our money. So it's a huge investment of time, but it's also like a pretty big impact. Oh my gosh, our farmer's market is one of our biggest draws. So you're kind of in this area. So you can start kind of charting these and, as Jessica kind of knows, you really want things that are high impact and lower cost. So you want to find projects that are here. But you need a sprinkling of them. You need a variety of projects that have quick turnaround, that are easy for us to do and have maybe just kind of a quick and fun impact. And then you need these longer term projects that are sort of simmering. And to Nick's point is we can't spend money that we don't have. Like we can't always be investing in this really big project without there being some sort of money return. So you have to balance it with, let's say, Nick had this wonderful idea of microloans or loans. So that's bringing money back in. So that would have a good impact and a good investment of our time and money. So maybe that project admittedly doesn't sound super sexy and fun, but like that project may be a better use of our time than something that's a little more fun or frivolous, like movie night. So we could kind of chart it out in a physical capacity too, if this chart doesn't.
So put childcare on there somewhere, just fit that in.
Yeah, so
like a bigger.
I'm gonna change colors for childcare. So childcare, incredibly high impact. It's something we need, but huge time and capacity. So you're gonna put it here and you put like childcare.
The reason there's a childcare crisis is the regulatory and other environments have made it impossible to make money in childcare, killing basically the private entities that serve people don't have able to write big checks.
But-
It is,
But what are we helping with childcare? Are we building a childcare center?
Well,
Are we
exactly.
constructing it, or is an already established childcare business coming to us and saying, can you help me find a space?
Yeah.
Can you help me find a space and negotiate the lease? And we can say,
Yes,
I bet we could. And so then it's huge impact, but not huge investment. And then we're helping with childcare in a different capacity. Or if there's a lot of different ways to help with childcare. Can you help us find staff? Can you help us find people that want to get certified as childcare specialists? You know, maybe then it's contacting Columbia Green or contacting the high school and looking at jobs programs and seeing what can we do to support this program, or the apprenticeships programs that Phil had mentioned. Like, and I've talked to Kyle about this, like my industry has almost no tradesmen coming up into it that are, you're not part of like the immigrant population. Like that's just, we're constantly importing in labor in the landscape construction industry.
Wow.
Nobody is learning to be a skilled stonemason. It's becoming like a
Pretty much
lost
all
art.
trades.
Yeah, like the talented stonemasons that we had at the turn of the century that did hand carved work, we don't have it anymore. So how are we getting these beautiful urns, you know, mold making, like all of these arts are getting lost. But there are so many creatives and artisans in Hudson. And Jess has mentioned arts and culture is one of our biggest draws of coming to Hudson. You know, how great for us to help with an apprenticeship program. But we had talked about that's a huge amount of monitoring on our end.
But would that be a cash outlay, or is that something we would seek to get grants for?
That was a Phil idea about it, because he had piloted it with Perfect 10.
the apprenticeship?
Yeah,
Yeah,
So a lot of it is engaging with business people who would love to take on apprentices, don't always know how to, may need encouragement, and identifying the apprentices in its best days. Perfect 10 probably had a half a dozen, in our case it was a female, but half a dozen young women working on Warren Street and learning trades, many of whom ended up taking jobs in hospitality, jewelry making, working in an art gallery, and so on. It works really well. It's not expensive. The business owners would love a subsidy if we put one down, but they don't always ask for that. But it's a ton of work. So on the chart, it's low cost.
well,
It's high impact on an individual basis, not necessarily on aggregate. It's staffing intensive on us. You can't just disappear.
No.
You can't introduce a kid to a business owner and then walk off stage.
And the Berkshire Takani Foundation, Peter is chair of the Fund for Columbia County, am I correct? Did I get your
Yes.
title right? Okay. Is investigated apprenticeships for a very long time over the course of trying to find the model that works. Because just what you said is sort of a hurt, transportation to the internship, dropping them off at Stair Galleries to be a gallery intern, and Colin Stair has no time to talk to them, and so he puts it down on 3 people below who are working for him, who should be doing, but it's a complicated marriage to make, it's hard, but it would be worthwhile. Could it be, you know, could the equation be made to work?
If we did that, we would probably have to acquire or hire someone to run just that project.
Yeah.
But it damn well would work. We would end up getting kids into the trades.
so I'll
It's
just
far
say
from
there's
Hudson.
so many ideas that are gonna come at us.
Yeah.
And, you know, whether they come at us through a Google form or whether someone corners Phil at a cocktail party, you know, we have to take this idea and evaluate the
Yeah.
impact and the investment.
Yes, I think that's a good.
So they're more verbal and I'm more visual, so I was trying to distill this incredibly thorough, because you need this level of detail and robust analysis into,
What was the bad word you used?
I think
You can
Teasing.
detailed maybe, I don't know, you didn't like a lot of my my diction yesterday, you were crossing them out.
Visualization, you can connect these two.
I also think they're slightly different purposes where this helps us
Yeah.
decide how much of our time and money it's worth. This is more of a rubric to say, okay, this meets our criteria to be something that we're gonna consider up here.
Exactly, that's true.
So put 3 of these crazy people in a room and Phil makes a gin cocktail and this is what comes out.
But I can tell you, to Phil's point regarding apprenticeships, it was successful with Perfect 10, but it's been out there in the public now for the better part of 25 years in Hudson. A lot of, well, my wife for one, is extremely involved in attempting to put apprenticeships into place just on Warren Street and the businesses alone. It takes legwork, it takes people behind it, follow through.
It's okay,
It isn't always
I also have
successful,
one there.
You know,
okay.
but when it is,
This
it's
is
wonderful,
longer.
and it's transformative when it works.
I mean, we hire interns at Dirtworks and it's always a nightmare because they never know how to do anything for the first couple of
Right.
weeks. They can't even figure out how to open up the computer program. At the end of 3 months, like, they're like,
How do we get that?
maybe I'll hire you.
Yeah, I do think we have to be careful to call it an internship. I think if it's an apprenticeship, you have to go through the Department of Ed, talk about regulated. And yeah, it's an internship.
Internship.
And Spark of Hudson has done something on this, so I think we would learn something from them on that.
for sure.
Okay.
Thank
you, guys.
Yeah, thank you so much.
No, thank you guys.
Congratulations. I'm so excited. Sorry to have to duck out for a
Okay.
meeting.
Cheers.
Well, why don't we start with movie night? It sounds funny.
So, because we had all these kind of blue sky ideas and I think as we do community outreach, more ideas are gonna come pouring in. And to speak to Nick's word about caution of just like being like, let's do this. It's all really fun, but maybe we need to get all the ideas in before we start writing checks or figuring it out.
So what do you envision the next steps for this are? These are 2 different ways to think about, it's still very new. Maybe we should form another group, widen out a little bit and figure out how we do the outreach, what the format for submission is, all of the detail of making it happen.
I think that Rich S. Phil should pull out of this a task list,
Okay.
a
but-
to-do list,
Yeah, no, I'd just like to.
and then we'll assign it out.
I would just like to say, this is the most important thing that we have to do right now. So the urgency on this is quite a
Well, then
lot.
I'm out.
You're
I
out.
mean, what-
No, you, son.
I have no urgent.
We really have to do this because we can't do any work until we know how we evaluate the work we're gonna do. So I think you brought it to a great place, but I do think we should incorporate some new thinking.
I think the whole board should be putting maybe a foot in this.
Okay,
Like, I love our little triumvirate, but I think Paul's gonna have a really great idea of how to do outreach in a way that, maybe I haven't thought of. I think this now broadens out to the group.
okay.
Chris, to speed it up, I still think we have to break it out into a bunch of tasks, and then we can sit as the executive committee, do some hypothetical assignments,
Okay,
and get people on task.
Is task number 1 building our email list?
I think task number 1 is actually establishing maybe at the executive level how much money you want to put forth for 2025. And I think you can say $10,000, $100,000, whatever number you come up with. That I think is a huge guiding principle for
Yes.
even evaluating projects.
I agree.
Because I think it will drive the number of projects that come forward. Like, if you have a $250,000 project and you say, we're only really entertaining $10,000 project, let's not have this person go through the half an hour. It's a pain to write a very thorough proposal. Let's not waste the.
Totally is.
I applaud you. It's all day.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, it's
Yeah.
savage, so let's be respectful of their time, and let's also be respectful of our time of reviewing these. Sorry, this is coming to my stand and read the proposal. But so I think on the executive level, you have to determine how much money you wanna allocate, and then from in that fund, I think it will reveal how many projects you can do for that amount of time and investment.
Also think the executive committee should come to terms with the outreach partnerships with people who would be willing to underwrite some of these programs too as our partner. That's another piece that we talked about before, is not just always putting
Yeah,
it.
we should be looking at fundraising or donations.
Or
The idea-
organizations.
Organizational donations where money comes into us.
Okay.
and-
Yeah, sponsorships.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
we had made so many great connections through Columbia Green,
We did.
Community College,
Yeah.
and all the different businesses and nonprofits in the city that, maybe they wanna participate in one of these projects, maybe
Can
it
show
speaks
them
to
what good their money can do if applied properly.
Well, it'll be a sales pitch for
It
sure.
would have to be a sales pitch, it's gonna be.
So, okay, so, this is very good. Thank you very much.
So
Thank you,
this
Phil.
was
Jessica,
gonna be
more
laminated.
content?
We could
Is there
do it
stuff we
again.
didn't-
We're just throwing it away now because I
Okay.
couldn't get it.
So the next steps, I mean, we have 4 weeks between meetings, I remind everyone, that's how it works. So I would like to propose that we keep moving on this really with some speed in the first week of March. So, we get a little more clarity by the time we get to the next meeting, okay?
I've got, audit now in Paris coming up. We all should talk about maybe pulling someone else into,
Budget,
I got it.
I'm giving you assignments.
I got it. Thank you.
figure out a budget going forward,
Yes.
how much to spend, in terms of money out and how much to spend
Yeah, that's.
potentially on hired
executive.
resource to facilitate all this stuff.
That would be part of the budget, I would say.
Yeah, cause like
We're
as
talking budget.
a mere cog in the machine,
Yeah.
like I don't know what to do with anything until I know how much money we have.
Okay. I'll work on it.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, guys. Anybody else who would like to participate in this? You're in. Looks like everybody left.
It's because they're so small, they take up so much
Okay,
space.
so,
We need them
that-
more room.
That's our February meeting. Thank you all. I would just like to say that the March meeting is the annual meeting. It's a little bit longer. There will be food. There's 2 meetings in one kind of thing. The auditors will be presenting the audit. And, we will be doing some tasks having to do with evaluating how we feel we did, in the last year, how our mission was met or, accomplished, and we will look forward to seeing you all March 25th. I just do want to say though, before we go, we're very grateful to Seth and Martha and Paul Colarusso, who, while we're retiring your number,
We'll see
we
you
have
on
your
your
number. Well, we have your number, but so thank you so much. You really added a whole lot.
You know, time flies when you're having fun.
And thank you, Peter, for coming. Always good to have an audience.
We go to adjourn?
Can I have a motion to adjourn? Hi, Carol. Okay, two, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
So
Thank you.
are you thinking
So we can
eat the
pizza
proposal?
For example,
That's the budget.
what they are, apprenticeship program.
Nick, that's
Is an
brilliant.
idea for
Flash reading.
developing to take.
It's
Oh,
flash
or
frozen.
it's somebody who's gonna build a new.
This is flash.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jan.
Jan, thank you so much.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course.
And we send one moment.
We did it.
What do you think?
For the outside company.
Peter, make sense, not sense?
Makes sense to
You know,
me.
and I think
Okay.
we join